What's going on, Soul Tribe? I salute the divinity in you, and welcome to the Chariot and Friends. Justin here, and how you feeling? The moon's in Aries, and I do enjoy the moon in Aries. This is a time where we're really going to get into thinking about that pure expression of will, the true will, that soul calling. There's something that's really empowering about the area about Aries energy, and something that is and even exciting. I think about it. So we're getting towards the end of this lunar cycle here, and I think that there's this energy of like we're getting into a lot of transitions that are getting ready to happen. And so it's like, what do we want to do with all of this? And based off what we learned in this, and we'll get into all that here in a moment. But if you're new here, again, my name is Justin. I know that when you're coming across this video, you're in sync with the moon, and who doesn't love that? But this is also a place for you if you happen to have Cancer in your placements. Sun, moon, rising, maybe Mars, wherever. This one's for you. But we all benefit from syncing up with the moon. You got a Cancer placement somewhere, and the moon rules that. So it's good to have eyes on it. And I do tarot card spread, amongst other things, based on that lovely luminary, the good old moon. The moon's been rising pretty late, early, depending on how you look at it. But I haven't had a chance to see the moon here recently, but it's fine. But I'll talk about what sign it's in, what phase it's in, when it's going void. Of course, just all them lunar shenanigans. I did happen to, however, see a star the other day, Vega. That was dope. That was really dope. And just so you're all aware, this is a general reading, not a 1-to-1. So take what fits into your story, discard the rest, and everything will be dope. Let's jump into this. Let's do it in Aries fashion. Let's jump into this thing because there's some very interesting energies that I'm going to talk about. I got a chart here for you that we'll get into here in a moment. But depending on when you're watching this, happy Jupiter Day. I hope you all are doing well out there. And with the lunar shenanigans, the moon is going to enter into Aries on the 22nd of May, depending on when you're watching this, at about 9:26 a.m., and that's going to be Pacific time. And like I mentioned, that we're in a waning crescent phase right now. And we're getting ready to wrap things up of this lunar cycle. The moon's got one more sign after this to go through before we start the new one that's happening in Gemini. And I do personally, I've been feeling like there are a lot of new opportunities coming up on the horizon there. And granted, I have Saturn's coming up on my moon placement, forming a sextile light aspect, but I plan on seizing some opportunities with that one, milk that one for all it's worth. But I think that Aries energy, they're the cardinal fire sign. They're ruled by Mars. They're active and yang in nature. And I think that this, with the moon being here, I think that this is looking at what drives you. What do you really feel called to do? Like when you think about the thing, because fire energy is that inspiration, the will, if you will, that that impulse to be, to create. It's like, what does that look like for you? And then the moon is about nurturing that thing, nurturing those desires. Because I think that Aries is a very prolific sign. It's where, again, that fire energy is just this life. Life is just happening in Aries. And with that, there's so much abundance, I think, that is there. And it's just like, how do we, based off the energies that we have, how do we utilize the energy that we have within us? How are we embodying that true calling? And let's kind of move into this lunation here, because like I said, the moon is going to enter here. Let me get my handy dandy drawer. There's the moon. I'm gonna kind of circle the MC there because it's pretty close. But yeah, the moon's chilling in Aries here, and this is gonna be a mildly active one. The moon's gonna be forming a few aspects. Starting right off the bat, we have a sextile. That's, speaking of sextile energy, we have one that's happening with the sun, or that's gonna be happening with the sun right here, probably in like a couple hours, and when you think of sextile energy, that's opportunities, that's excitement, and the sun deals with that soul call, that will, that imagination sort of energy, and it's just like inspiration. And so you may be feeling like maybe there's some, like, what, man, this lunar cycle may have been maybe a lot that came up for you, but it's like, what, we learned something from this, and now based off these things, how do we want to move forward from here? This could be something, again, really exciting, I think, especially between fire and air. This can be a time to get inspired, where it's like, okay, I got new tools from this new lunar cycle here. Now how do I want to transfer them over to the next one? And then eventually here, the moon is going to be, it's a lot of harmonious aspects that the moon's forming. Even with Mars here, it's going to be forming a trine with Mars, which is the ruler of this moon here. And so that's a lot of flow there. The energies are, you think about the thing that you want to sustain. You think about your desire, your drive. And Mars is going to sustain that in Leo. Because in Leo, that's that fixed fire. And that's why I like that there's this combination of Aries and Leo kind of going on right now. Because it's like, again, you get the initiator, and then Leo to me is always like the oven. And then you bake that thing, and then it just shines brighter and brighter. And then eventually the moon ends on a sextile with Jupiter. And so in finding that soul calling, in nurturing whatever that is for you, then it leads to this energy of expansion. And it may not seem super big in the micro. This could be maybe where you're starting up a new hobby possibly, or maybe you're, whatever this may be looking like. And then you do this thing over time and you just find yourself how much more enjoyable life is, one, but then maybe it opens doors for you that you didn't even expect to with this moon in Aries there. So those are just some things I think to just kind of meditate on as we kind of move through this stuff here. But again, a lot of motion, a lot of opportunity here. I think a lot of excitement that's hopefully kind of building there. Because the only other way like I can maybe see this translating, because it is Gemini energy and even that Aries, maybe there might be a little anxiety, possibly a little bit of nervousness. Maybe you feel like things are moving and maybe you're not quite ready for that. Maybe it's kind of like the time seems like it's getting away from you possibly here. So this could be even an opportunity if that's something that you're feeling like, okay, let's call upon that Mercury in Taurus right now, because even though we have a lot of active energy, we still got Mercury here. Our mind can still do some grounded things. So maybe getting outside, tuning into a pace that helps you kind of slow the mental faculties if they've been kind of running wild there, if you've been sensing a lot of things that's going on here, because we've been. Again, Aries is about to be really activated here, especially we'll have Venus here, and then eventually Saturn's going to be transferring there on the 24th as well, like I was saying. So, and I have a video that talks all about that on my other channel, Alchemist State, so if you want to look into that, about that Saturn ingress looks like for you. Yeah, definitely check that out. Because, just for example here, this would be if you have a Cancer rising, Saturn's about to enter into your house of your achievements, your ambitions, your, how you want to be recognized by the public, any things that you want to receive kind of mastery over, any sort of new skills. That's some big questions that Saturn's asking, getting into an angular house there. So, and you may be thinking about the things that you've been attracting with Venus, and, what does that look in the work that maybe is going to become required for that. So, but again, it's not one, I think, a time to try to really stress. It's to try to let this be anticipating, like, okay, this is the work that I have to done, but the results that I'm going to get from it when I put in this work, that's going to be worth it in the long run there. So that's what I really feel this kind of lunation too, maybe it could be potentially kind of inviting here. But I think that's all I got for the lunar shenanigans there. So let's go ahead and get into your general energy of the day, because this one is really nice too. I think we're really talking about working with like a clean slate here, because you have hexagram 22, which is decoration. And if you want to look more into this, you got changing line number 6. And so if you want to check that out on any sort, I have a website down in the description box below, but any sort of resources that has the different changing lines, and I invite you to meditate on them, see what comes up for you. You can get a lot of really useful insight with this one. But like I said, you got line 6. This is mountain over fire, by the way. And so the line 6 says decorating on white, faultless. And I love that. Like, it's very, I really like those ones that are really kind of straight to the point here. Because when you think about decorating on white, you're working on a blank canvas in a sense. And what I'm thinking about, or like one way that this energy was sort of like how when I was meditating on this, is that we're getting ready, like I said, to move into a new lunar cycle here soon. This new one in Gemini. And so we're going to be working with a a clean slate here, and this would be a time where you need to look at some of the I wouldn't be a time necessarily to blame yourselves for the things that you didn't know, but look at the things that you do know now. Actually, hold on one second. Okay, we're back. But yeah, this wouldn't be a time where I would say, like, it's not looking at maybe the things that you didn't know and blaming yourself. This is like, you know what, you were working with the tools that you were working with. You did this lunation how you did it. And now this is a time to, really think about these, each of these lunar cycles. Like, okay, what are my intentions for this? And these were the themes that were coming up. And now, how do I want to decorate this go round? I picked up some new abilities on this. I've refined my skills some in this. So I really think that this is one where look at the canvas that you've drawn over this, or the painting that you've made over this lunar cycle. And yeah, don't look at it with any sort of like, oh, that could have been better, that could have been better. Like, yeah, we keep that in mind, but also, how did you bring it? Look at this expression. Look at how how things have changed. How you've grown over this period of time. Because then I think that continues to promote or like encourage the working with the energies, if that makes sense. So yeah, this one's a very straightforward one, just like I think Aries can be. And so, yeah, utilize this time to, yeah, again, to think about where we want to, yeah, how we want to decorate going forward there. But we'll get into that more, I think, here with the tarot. But last couple of things here, these readings that I do, they're not gender specific readings, so apply these energies to people as they make sense for your situations. And then I'm going to be talking about different topics such as like financial matters, medical advice, legal affairs, relationships, but this is by no means professional advice. Talk to your financial advisors, your doctors, your healers, your lawyers, your therapists, all those great people doing that good work. But I'm going to pull 6 cards, and they're going to cover different themes. And since you got changing line 6, we're going to get a clarifier for card numbers. Card number 6. But the first card is going to deal with any sort of like money matters and things like that, and not just with like your finances, but even how you've been spending your time. So let's get into that. Get into that energy. All right, so you got the Five of Wands in reverse here. This could be where when I'm almost getting like different things, like different energies, maybe like, oh my god, no, like different energies like competing for your time. That's interesting. Maybe it's like you're wanting to invest in a couple of things, and you're kind of at odds right now. You want to start this thing and this thing and that thing. I think that's something that Aries, again, is a great initiator, but it's just like, what's the follow through look like on things? And so I would see that's one thing that I would kind of look into. This almost even feels a little. I feel some frustration here with the Five of Wands, and maybe that you're feeling frustrated as far as like how it's like maybe resources have been maybe coming in, possibly it's like you wanted to start this thing, but we got, you're thinking about maybe like, yeah, bills that you have to pay, maybe got children, you got mouths to feed, you got yourself to feed, you got like all of the things, and this is just feeling like and this could be where maybe even you're thinking about wanting to get, maybe like a raise possibly here. Maybe you're feeling a bit of tension. Maybe you notice that like you feel like your skills are at a certain level, and it doesn't feel like maybe the pay that you're receiving is matching that possibly. So that might even be what some frustration is coming through there. It's like you're putting in all this work, and then, like you look at what your stuff, and then it seems to be gone as quick as it came. So that might be something there too. But yeah, it's something too. I'm almost getting like where like because like when I think about how you spend your time as well, because time is just, if not more so valuable than money. It just feels like that there's maybe been like maybe there's been this kind of competition between like wanting to hang with others, but also wanting to have time for yourself, possibly, or maybe it's been spread out a little bit here, and I think we'll get into that a little bit more maybe as that story evolves when we get into the fourth card about relationships. But yeah, that's just something that's coming through with that. So that might even be something where you're kind of evaluating too, where maybe something's not, you maybe even too where you've been investing in something and it's not giving like you want it to, and it's just like now we're in this evaluation, like is this thing really worth it, like do I still want to put my energy into this, even seeing that I've hit these maybe like blocks here. Maybe you've invested in like some sort of like stocks, for example, and it hasn't been moving like you want to, and so it's like, do I pull out, do I keep, do I stay the course, whatever that may look like for you. So that may be some things where, again, maybe reaching out to like a, some sort of like stockbroker or financial advisor, things like that might be something to look into. But all right, that's all I got for you there. Let's get into your next card, which talks about any sort of like medical matters and things like that. Let's see how the body's feeling, or if you have any questions about that. All right, so you got the Nine of Swords up right here. And this could be, the Nine of Swords could be like quite a bit of anxiety, but there's a lot of mental cruelty that goes on. It could be very aggressive with the Nine of Swords. And this could be where, just for example, maybe the body is just not doing what it used to do. Maybe it started to, maybe we're getting up there in experience, and, where the body used to be able to just kind of do things on command, now it's sort of like having to adapt to that. And maybe the mental talk hasn't been so kind. Maybe there's been a lot of stressors with that, possibly, as far as like maybe mortality has come into play here, and not in like I don't, and it could just be just like the thoughts around it, just like, oh my gosh, what have I been, again, maybe you're feeling a conflict, what have I been doing with my time possibly here, how can I, so something very kind of stressing out the body. And I would say, like, if you're in this state of just kind of conflict and kind of strife here, this would be, I find just even just like getting outside can be just a really kind of great. When I know that seems like a real kind of basic sort of answer there, but it can really achieve a lot. It can help you sometimes just getting some fresh air, getting out of your space. Especially if you've been just like cooped up in a space for a while, and that's something maybe if you're like doing like some convalescing possibly, then this could be where maybe just like helping the air move a little bit by either opening a window, just kind of getting some fresh air there, or maybe like lighting some sort of like incense or working with some sort of like aromatherapy, just to kind of help calm the mind a little bit here. Something to maybe even doing some kind of like breath work here, possibly. That may be something that resonates, or any sort of like maybe meditation, maybe even some sort of like yoga, something to help you get out of the mind and maybe a little bit more into the body, and see like, and kind of help you feel through this thing here. But this could be too, maybe there is a fear around, it gives me almost that sort of like self-diagnosis sort of energy, where it's like you've get into maybe a little bit of scrolling, maybe we look up things on WebMD or whatever that looks like, and now the imagination's running wild a little bit. And that might be something too. It's like maybe it's like you're sensing something, and maybe it's like you don't want to know what it is, because then that may confirm what you have, or it may not. But also there's a state of not knowing is equally uncomfortable, because because I feel like with the body, there's only certain things that you can ignore for so long, so that's, I would say, and this is not to, to put any kind of fear or anything, but if you're just feeling something's off, and personally, I have a very, very like kind of body focus, and so if there's ever been any kind of weirdness with the body, I'll give it a little leeway. It's just like, okay, if this is not like a practical amount of time, if this is not cleared up in X, in maybe a couple of days, a few days, depending on what we're talking about, then I'm gonna have to elevate it. And there have been times where things have resolved themselves, but then there have been other times where it's just like, I can't put this off. Like, we gotta get a professional in on the mix here. So, that's something where, yeah, that's a tricky space to be in sometimes. But I feel honestly it's better to know than to not know, because at least with knowledge you at least know what to do with it. You can figure out where to go from there, as opposed to just kind of staying in the dark. And you see these swords here, they just go on. There's really no end to them, end in sight to them. So, and I'd be thinking too, just like, checking in with like your sleep. Maybe with that moon in Aries, maybe you've been feeling just like maybe the energies have been just really active. There's been a lot of maybe things that just have been coming up for you, or just something like that. So maybe making a bit more time to sleep, or just finding different ways to wind down if that's been something that's been difficult. Maybe drinking maybe like a strong cup of chamomile tea, putting a couple bags, let them steep for like 10 minutes. That could be really, maybe the tea might become a little bit more bitter than normal, but it's really relaxing. You put a little honey in that, done. So just something I think to think about there. And it really kind of takes me back to that decorating on white, considering that this figure is dressed in white. And I think it's like trying not to get to a place where you're concerned, like necessarily stressed about what's coming forward, but thinking about it as, okay, this is a new chapter, and now I'm decorating on a blank page again. Like now we're writing in a book now. So it's like now we like, okay, what's this new story going to look like? How's this going to translate? So that's something else that's coming through, and maybe being mindful about this is given a lot. So if this might be something too where I'd be mindful even about like kind of snapping at other people too, because maybe you've been spending your time a lot like kind of stressing on this thing, going back to that Five of Wands, and maybe it's even brought up a little bit of stuff in the maybe in our relationships, and we'll get into that here in a little bit. But yeah, that's a lot coming from that Nine of Swords. So yeah, definitely something to meditate on. Now let's get into your third card here, which talks about any sort of like legal affairs, things along those lines. Gemini energy. You got the Lovers in reverse here. And this, I'm getting one. I think maybe some are debating about whether whether to take action on some sort of like legal matter. This could be maybe this has to deal with some like zoning possibly here. This could be maybe if this is like some sort of like relationship or whatever this may be. It's like I'm almost feeling kind of like a stuck in between something right now. It's like we're maybe making the choice about whether to initiate it, because it's like once the choice is made, it's real. Like things are gonna progress. And that might even be what's going back to this kind of mental strife here. Maybe back to that Nine of Swords, even that Five of Wands. Maybe there's a lot of internal conflict that's going on. Maybe we're, maybe having to deal with, and this doesn't have to be anything like super serious. Maybe there's something that's going on with like a ticket possibly, and things are maybe gotten a little bit there. May have to do a little extra work for like to keep the license, or maybe there's something that's whatever this may be. This could be like maybe custody or something like that. But But I am getting something here for some. Like I think there's a situation that you like. I wouldn't like. Not to say that you shouldn't or wouldn't, but it's like if you wait for something to, if you just kind of wait for things to resolve itself. Like I'm not quite sure if that's going to get the answers that you're looking for there. I'm even feeling maybe for some, maybe you're feeling like limited on choices as far as like maybe you're looking for, maybe you're wanting to get a sort of lawyer budget. Maybe you don't have maybe not have the finances for it, or maybe you feel like there's not that much open, but there may be just a little bit more work that's needing to be done there. Like that will require a little bit more effort than, yeah, but that's an interesting energy that's coming through there. Yeah, but that's all I got for that one for right now. That's interesting. Oh, one more thing is kind of coming through there. I'm even getting like like trademark things, like making like whether should I the choice about whether I want to, make like something like a maybe doing like an LLC, or maybe you're getting ready to start something where you need to take more kind of legal responsibilities, just some more of like more paperwork that's going to get involved, doing like your own sort of taxes possibly, or something along those lines there, just where there's some extra responsibility coming into play there. But and it's like not maybe feeling equipped for it, or just like again maybe there's a lot of stress behind it, but I do feel like it's something that you can be, that can be figured out. But let's get into your next card, which talks about relationships, whether that be in love, familial, friendship. Let's see what's going on there. Work. So you got the Queen of Swords in reverse here. And this to me, maybe there's some uncertainty with some relationship as far as like, again, apply it to your situation, but I think we're looking for clarity. If this is love, maybe we're wanting to have, oh, and maybe even going back to this lovers, maybe this is like, hey, are we going to take that next step? Do we want to get married or not? Or maybe do we want to have children or not? Or, like what that sort of thing looks like, like where it's just a question of just like where things are going right now. And I'm also getting to where it's like paying attention to certain patterns in with the Queen of Swords, especially if you feel like you've been attracting a certain type of person over a while. You're noticing like similar themes there, because the Queen of Swords is very perceptive, but there's something here that's like being missed possibly, that could be just needing to a bit more examination, something where we're needing to have just like use more discernment, or hey, I have like kind of call on that maybe just like past experience for some keener choices that could be made here with the Queen of Swords. And even kind of going back to like that Nine of Swords, it's almost like I don't know if we're afraid of to maybe just to ask someone there, because then once we have that clarity, it's just like how are we going to receive that, maybe going forward, or maybe someone's waiting on a choice from you possibly there. Maybe they wanted to see what your intentions are at. And maybe this could be too, like, just kind of flipping the script a little bit. Maybe it's looking at how maybe you show up in relationships possibly there. That's, maybe you're noticing some patterns. People tend to say like you notice a thing about you, and that might warrant just taking a magnifying glass to a little bit to kind of see something there. But yeah, that's what I'm feeling with that Queen of Swords there. Now let's get to your fifth card here, which just talks about if there are any just kind of general questions that maybe that I missed that didn't get covered in these topics here. So let's see what's going on with that. So you got the Strength card in reverse here. So just as a just kind of a general sort of thing here, if there's if there's any sort of like things that are pressing, like some things like I feel is really kind of requiring some inner resolve here. Maybe you don't feel like you're strong enough to maybe deal with the medical matter, or maybe there's something that's going on in your spirituality possibly here. Maybe there's something that's happening in the maybe you need to have a conversation with like a family member or something along those lines that's just like requiring some more of you here. This would be a time to get it's almost like I'm getting like an energy of needing to manifest a bit more, just like resolve, a more kind of inner courage. Because if you always run away from a situation, that's not going to get easier to handle. It's just like when I think about like just kind of like working out the body, for example. If I don't work out my let's say if I just only worked out my right side because like that's stronger, but I don't like to push my left side because it's weaker, then there's always going to be that imbalance. And it's just like, well, you know what, I kind of have to push through this thing, got to match that. But in the end, that's going to get where everything's in equilibrium here. And that's what I feel like. It's like the strength is calling for some just like some inner strength, some inner resolve that's needing to be had here with whatever this, if there, whatever this question is coming up for you. So, very interesting. And this could be too another figure decorated in white. This could be too where, maybe you don't, it's even giving me like a fake it till you make it type of energy. Maybe you don't believe that you can do something there. Maybe you feel like you're not, let's say if you're thinking about qualifications for a certain job, but maybe you're missing certain things. It's just like, finesse it a little bit. I'm not saying do anything shady, but, I remember when, I was working in like food and beverage where I'd never been a bartender before, but I had to start somewhere. And so I found a place and like, I may have exaggerated a little bit as far as like my experience where like I made drinks before, but we were talking like mimosas and Bloody Marys and margaritas, really kind of basic things, where this place was just like definitely a bit more fancy. I needed to know like old fashions, martinis, Negronis, things like that, different wines and things like that. So I'm like, oh, this is going to require a lot of me, and I made some mistakes along the way, but ultimately I figured out what I was doing, and then I became a strength. So that's just like a pretty like a basic example. But all right, let's get some advice from Mars. Oh, oops, hold on, we're gonna come back to that. Oh no, we're not. No, we're not. I'm with it. We're gonna clarify for this one. I'm so here. I switched things up a little bit, and that's what happens. So you got the Five of Swords up right here, and you know what? I think that whatever's going on here, I think that this is because that Lovers is a very interesting energy. It's almost like there's a surrendering that like even like giving up, like what, it's like what's the point, like this isn't gonna like come to fruition anyway. It's like feeling defeated before, like kind of how these figures are just kind of walking away here, like what, why even bother, like this thing is this situation, this maybe whoever this figure is embodying is just like it's insurmountable for me. And I think that it's just not counting yourself out before you've even tried. That's what's something that's coming through here. And even if there's something maybe more difficult, maybe that we're processing or that we're dealing with, that it doesn't mean that you have to tackle, if you have everything all figured out at once. But, baby steps, like wrapping your head around something. Because the Five of Swords can be feeling like, just really kind of defeated by a situation, or... It even sometimes, I think it can get to this place where just like is like hope enough. Is that going to be enough to fill up whatever this is maybe that we're kind of going through right now, that things can get better and something. That's an interesting energy that's coming through there. But let me get a clarifier with this five of swords here. Interesting. So you got the Devil in reverse here. And this to me, it's like I said, it's like, not allowing yourself to feel down and defeated by this. Where the devil, and the devil's not just always toxicity. This could just be there are matters of just earthly matters that are requiring a lot of you right now. The devil is like the lord of the gates of matter, where things manifest. This is Capricorn energy. Oh, yeah, you got like Leo and like I said, Gemini here. But this devil to the five of to the Five of Swords, whatever it is that you're maybe that you may be dealing with, it may be something that maybe requires a lot of you for maybe a long time, maybe indefinitely. But that's not where it may be work. You'll adjust to this in time. You know, I know that the reality may look different, but who knows what, again, like when you start to tackle this situation, what new opportunities will open up for you, because they always do. It's always an invitation for change, you know, that's happening here. And oh, you know, we can go ahead and switch back over. I'm just like staying down here, but I do think that even if you're feeling defeated by something, you know, because this could be, maybe, I'm just even thinking, for example, maybe you were going through like a career change. That doesn't mean that you're necessarily starting from scratch. Maybe in the field that you're doing, it's something new, but you have all of this experience prior to this, and those skills can apply to this thing. But it's just like thinking of, you know, creative ways, because the devil there's a lot of creative force with the devil as well there, you know, that this desire to build, because I think where the devil can be seen as kind of like lusty or kind of toxic and things like that is when that creative force doesn't have a proper outlet. You know, thinking of going back to even like Aries, thinking about the true will, when that funnel feels clogged or something like that, that energy has to go somewhere. And then that's when I feel like those sort of like maybe sort of negative tendencies of the devil tend to come out there, because it's the body trying to get its attention, like, hey, I want to feel something different, I want to, you know, but it's like trying to figure, like, it's I hope that makes sense. It's some sort, it's like a very interesting message that's coming in as this for this. But and I'm just getting like a one kind of final message is that there's you know, to not bring fault, you know, when it talks about faultless in your general energy, to not bring fault for something, you know, like, so it can be easy, I think, sometimes to blame someone for a situation, and not to say, like, you know, like if you've been wronged in any sort of way, but it's like, okay, that thing's happened, so now it's my responsibility to fix it. It's not their job to fix it, they're the one that messed it up, so why am I gonna want them to fix it? You know what I mean? This is something where it's like, okay, I have to take accountability for my part in this, where, you know what, thank you for teaching me that lesson, so I know that that doesn't happen again. Just for example, there's no need to blame. It's just like, whatever, we did learn from this, you know, however that may be looking like for you. So yeah, I feel like it's like not letting yourself be kind of down and out, even if you're uncertain about where things are going, or if you're going to have the resolve to do this thing here. So very, very interesting reading that you got here. But if you like that, if anything resonated with you, give it a thumbs up. And share this if you know somebody who can get some nuggets of wisdom of this. Are you going to do the thumbs up thing? We'll see. And oh, there we go. And then subscribe there, you Queen of Swords. Hit that bell button, get notified when I release videos each day. And then I'm going to get you some Horizon card or cards here. But if you want, like I mentioned earlier, if you want to, well, actually first, before I get into that, if you want to work with your chart more personally, we got a lot of, like I said, a lot of planets that are getting ready to move here soon. Saturn, big players about to move. Mercury's going to move, and even Big Papa Jupiter's going to be moving in like little over 10 days. So yeah, we got a lot of stuff going on. If you want to see where that's showing up for you in your chart, how to work with those energies, if that's going to be very, you know, where there's some maybe particular kind of hot spots for you in that period of time, where you really maybe want to be more intentional, kind of get eyes on those areas. Down in the description box is a link for the list of services that I provide, the cost for them, and if you have any questions as far as like how to schedule a reading with me or anything, definitely check that out. I have my email down in there, and you can feel free to email me, and we'll go from there. So that's available for you. But also, if you just want to watch the transits in general, on my other channel, Alchemist 8, I do weekly videos that talk about that and how to work with those energies as practice. Bring that stuff from the heavens down to earth. So and I also do on that video, or on that channel, different I have these series that I'm doing. It's different celestial bodies in different signs and different houses. So if you in them, just like my thoughts on them. So if that's something that you want to check out as well, you may be newer to astrology, want to see how I think about the astrology and what are some ways to invite you to look at that. Definitely check that out for you as well. I have them all under playlists and things, and it's just kind of growing. I don't have any specific days when I release them. I'm going to start getting back on track with those though there too though, but. Let's go ahead and get into your cards here, because the first card you got here is the Dharma card. And then the next card you have is Redemption here. And hold on one. Okay, so we had some other things to take care of real quick. But when we get into when we talk about Dharma, this is this is like, I think, a really great example of Aries energy. It's living out the inner callings, your visions, your ideas, your inspirations, that of what your true self looks like, of what you what you feel like you were here to embody. And what I like about this kind of combination here is that there's this with the redemption, that if you feel like that, if you've ever felt even that there's like it's too late, that you missed out on an opportunity, it's never too late. If you wanted to, maybe you're like in your 70s and you're like, what, I want to start dancing. Do it. Like, it's never too late. You can still move them legs. Like, and find ways to move. If not, if anything, we can we can do a lot with that. But I think that this is too, there's a lot of, I think, forgiveness in this too. Of maybe thinking that maybe you spent some time, dealing with something. Maybe there was this fear around really kind of expressing. It's almost kind of coming back to that strength card. It's almost like that there was a fear of like living one's authentic self or something along those lines, and like now feels like there's this second chance here to do that, and like it may have been presented to you in a way that doesn't seem favorable in the micro, but in the macro it's something that's really great. Like I'll give you an example. And I was actually just talking to someone about this. We were talking about divorce and how, a lot of the times the immediate response to that is just like, oh, I'm so sorry that happened. And it's just like, I mean, I'm not, and we both felt that way about that, because it's like what it did was unlock something. It helped move life in the trajectory that we didn't even realize that we wanted, like, and it just like, and I think deep down it's like we knew, but it just like when things happen, it just like it seems so crazy in that moment, but then the way that new energies make space for that. Or I'll give you another example. I had a long-term friendship kind of fizzle out, but in that a new one came into, and it's been actually really cool. Like, I've learned a lot through that experience and through this new relationship, and it's helped me show up even differently in my relationship, like kind of current ones that I've had going for a while, and even newer ones that I'm going into, going forward. So yeah, it's very interesting here what this kind of energy is giving me. But yeah, just something I think to think about with this stuff. But that's all I got for you there. So until next time, stay mindful out there, keep eyes on that moon, and I will catch you on the next one. Oh yeah, we're gonna catch you on what a day to catch you on, Saturn day.